morning, Mr. Maleka. Good morning, everybody.
Chair, since last week, Thursday, there have been some welcome developments about one of the witnesses who previously intimated that he would not testify.
Oh.
But we will communicate those details to you.
Okay.
Because there seems to be a welcome change of heart.
Oh.
Yes.
That's good. Thank you.
Chair, the name of the witness before you.
I'm sorry, before you proceed, I know counsel for Mr. Ajay Gupta and Mr. Rajesh Gupta are not here, but you will recall that during argument last week, you raised the issue that their stance that they were not prepared to return to South Africa and participate in the proceedings of this commission within South Africa had not been made in an affidavit.
Yes.
And Mr. Helens for Mr. Rajesh Gupta and Mr. Ajay Gupta said in reply that if necessary, an affidavit or affidavits saying exactly what was in the written submissions could be obtained. I would like him to make arrangements to have those statements put on affidavit. Obviously, they are not here. May I ask that that be conveyed to him?
Yes.
I'm sure that it could be done within a matter of days. It's just to ensure that the position that Mr. Ajay Gupta and Mr. Rajesh Gupta have taken, which was set out in the written submissions in regard to not being prepared to come to South Africa, that is contained, put in an affidavit. Okay.
Chair, we will convey your request immediately to the attorney of the commission.
Yes.
To action it without any delay.
Yes, thank you.
Chair, let me spell for the record, now that we know the record has some difficulty.
Yes,
the
I
name,
hope that something has been done to make sure that the concerns I was told about last week are no longer there.
Yes.
And that somebody is keeping an eye to make sure that the problems have gone away.
Indeed, we have appointed one amongst us, to quality control and quality check
Okay,
the record as and when it is transcribed.
Excuse me.
The name is Jan, Jan. Gilliland, Gilliland. Gilliland. Iland.
Or single L?
It's the...
Single L?
Yeah, the last one is single Land.
Okay, let's start again. Gilliland. Gilliland?
Yes, Gilliland.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Or Gilliland.
Or is it Gilliland or
Yes.
Gilliland? Oh, he will correct us.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Chair, may I ask
The registrar.
the registrar to swear him in?
Please state your full names for the record.
Jan Janus Gilliland.
Do you have any objection to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you will give today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may take a moment to explain the purpose of Mr. Gilliland's evidence. You will recall when we started with the evidence of Mr. Maseko, we intimated that we will present before you the story of GCIS in 3 parts. You have heard the first and the second parts through Mr. Maseko and Ms. Williams, respectively. Mr. Gilliland is going to complete that story. The purpose of his evidence at this stage, Chair, is to introduce you to a concept called BAS, B-A-S, payment. BAS is an acronym for Basic Accounting System Payment.
Or BAS?
Yes.
Okay. Bulk?
BAS, it's basic for B.
Oh, basic, yes.
Accounting for A.
Yeah.
System for S.
Okay.
Payment.
Okay, thank you.
This is an accounting method kept and applied by national and provincial treasuries to track and trace all or most of the government payments made by national and provincial departments who are on that system. The concept becomes important in the context of your mandate for 2 reasons. One, it will reflect all of the payments that have been made by our government with reference to procurement of goods, services, or other commodities, including payments that are the subject matter of your mandate, either because they are underpinned by state capture, corruption, or fraud. And we thought it wise to introduce this concept to you now, fundamentally because of the key role Mr. Gilliland has played with reference to the conception and implementation of that concept. The second reason why we have brought Mr. Gilliland before you now, beyond completing the story of GCIS, is to inform you how he tracked and traced payment of an amount in the order of 55 million rand to the combined print and television media houses of the Gupta family. There has been some difficulty around whether, as a matter of fact, GCIS has made that payment, because it was brought for the first time to the attention of the officials of GCIS, mainly Ms. Williams, by the Hawks when they started to investigate that payment. It is in that context that Mr. Gilliland will inform you how he managed to track and trace that payment. We are going to present the evidence of Mr. Gilliland by relying on a set of slides which we have captured in a bundle, and I would ask for your permission to hand up that bundle and let it be admitted in record as Exhibit G1.
Thank you.
Chair, we will get to the slide presentation in order to capture the evidence of Mr. Gilliland. But these slide presentation have been informed and now educated, represent a statistical formulation, capturing and presentation of data in a format that we lawyers are unfamiliar with. They are useful statistical representation of huge amounts of data in a manner that is concise, readable, and understandable. So, for instance, you will see, if you go to page 18, the bar charts which are presented in a curve that is both vertical and horizontal. The horizontal section represents different national and provincial departments, going from the left hand to the right hand. And the vertical part of it represents different amounts, beginning from 10 million rand up to 100 million rand. And across each bar, you will see that there's an amount indicated with reference to each of the provinces. Mr. Gilliland will explain the meaning of all of these representations to you in order to make them fairly understandable to lawyers such as ourselves. And so, for instance, if you go backwards to page 13, you will see another statistical representation through a diagram which I'm told is a pie chart. And that
Is a what chart?
pie, like a meat
okay.
pie,
Yeah.
P-I-E. And that chart is divided into different portions, represented in color format. The smaller portion, the amount of 12 odd million rand, represents payment in totality made to an entity called Infinity, which we now know is the television platform of the Gupta Media House. And the blue slice of the pie represents an amount of 248 odd million rand, which is the total payments made to TNA, which is the print media version of the media houses. And that is an illustration of how the statisticians such as Mr. Gilliland do capture this information and present it before you in a manner that is concise and readable. Otherwise, it would mean that they have to track and bring before you thousands and thousands of information, or digitally represent them into thousands and thousands of pages. So if I may start, Chair, Mr. Gilliland, I'd like to talk to you firstly with reference to Exhibit G1, which is now before you. And just to orientate you, Exhibit G1 is a bundle of documents which is paginated by a number right at the top of the top right-hand corner of each page. Do you follow that?
Yes.
Can I ask you to speak loudly?
Yes.
And make sure that we all hear you. The chairperson must hear you, at least. If you go to page 2 of the document, you will see that you collect your experience and responsibilities in the Department of National Treasury, previously called State Expenditure, from 1987 to date. First of all, can I ask you to confirm that you have been a government employee in National Treasury since 1987?
Yes,
Up to date?
up to today, still there. Yeah.
Yes, that's a long, long stretch.
It's true. I've actually started my career in government in 71.
I can't hear you.
I started my career in government in 1971, actually.
So for all of your working life, you have been a public servant.
Correct.
Why is that? Why did you choose to spend almost all of your working life in the public service?
Well, I would say I've been fortunate to be able to do that, and I'm still enjoying it today. So,
That's commendable.
I'm sorry, Mr. Maleka. Mr. Gilliland, I don't know whether it's simply how your voice is. I'm not hearing you as clearly as I should. So it may be that's just how your voice is. Do the best you can, please, to make sure we can hear you.
Can I ask you to bring the mic closer to you?
I did that already. Is
Bring
that
it
better?
closer again. Phil,
Even more closer.
more closer.
Like this?
Yes, I think
That's
much better.
much better, yeah.
Yes. I think by the time we complete the hearing, some of us would have acquired experience in technology. Mr. Gilliland, you explain the position that you occupied in Treasury from 1 August 1997 as a Director, Operations and Implementations. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And you do so with reference to some responsibilities that you identify on page 2. I'd like to spend a bit of time with reference to that position and its responsibilities. The first, you say you were the project leader for BAS, B-A-S, and Vulindlela, V-U-L-I-N-D-L-E-L-A. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Can you, in your own words, explain to the chairperson why did you become a project leader of BAS Vulindlela?
Well, it basically started in the early 90s when the National Treasury state expenditure in those days decided to replace the existing applications at that stage, especially with reference to the financial management system, which was a batch type system used by a lot of departments. So then the Treasury nominated me to start the project. And that was, I would say, around about 92, 93. That's where we actually started with the development of the basic accounting system, with the intent to implement that across government, all provincial departments as well as national departments.
You mentioned the concept of basic accounting system. What is the purpose of that concept?
The basic accounting system is a general ledger which capture all payment information, amongst others, into a proper database, which is easy to access afterwards. It's an online application, so whenever you capture a transaction, we immediately populate the database. So afterwards, you can retrieve the information from that. Each department's got their own database. As I previously discussed with you, we did re-implement the application a couple of times. We're currently on the 5th version of the basic accounting system. The reason why we re-implement is from time to time the Treasury did decide to change the chart of account, supporting the information as captured in the database.
Mr. Gilliland, you're talking a language which we as lawyers don't understand, and I'll ask for your forbearance by asking you to explain some of the concepts you mentioned. For now, you have referenced a general ledger concept. For a non-accountant like me, what is a general ledger?
A A general ledger keeps track of all detailed transactions captured for that specific department, including interfaces from other applications such as the payroll, the procurement application, and potentially any other application that feed into the general ledger from a department.
Do I understand you to mean that a general ledger would reflect transactions by government entities on the procurement of goods and services for which payment has been made?
Yes, 100% correct.
And in general terms,
Can I just clear myself on that? We don't capture all the procurement information necessarily, but we do capture the result of that, like the order information as well as the payment information. Whether it's a final payment or a partial payment, we do capture that, but not necessarily the whole process of procurement.
yes. For the purposes of making sure we understand your evidence, let's use a practical example. Let's say you have a national department, such as the Department of Communications. It will procure goods and services. It will make payments. How does that department, in accounting terms, capture the payments it makes in that regard?
For that particular department, they also implemented the LOGOS application, which is not my responsibility. That's the typical procurement application. So they will capture all the information on that. And once they order a service or goods or whatever, that application will generate the order. That order will immediately process on the back side, and we will do the commitment. We will commit the monetary value of that order against the available funds for the department. And afterwards, when they receive the service or the goods, they capture a goods received voucher on the LOGOS application, which is the procurement application. That information is not fed into the base application. Once they start with the payment process, they will capture the payment against the order, either partially or in full. And the moment they do that, the payment information will feed into the base application.
And that process of capturing means that the information you have identified, the order and the payment, amongst others, will be secured in a database.
Yeah, in the base general ledger, which is a departmental database.
Yes. And you, as National Treasury, you would have access to that database.
Yes, we do have access to the database.
Yes. And it is that access which would enable you to monitor and have a feel of what payments each department on the best system has made.
Yes, if required, we can access the information and inform whoever is got a need for that type of information on what payments went through the database for a particular department or all departments across government.
Yeah. Before I get to the next topic, can I ask you to explain more or less what entries do you expect to capture from the databases of the departments, which will be part and parcel of the bus system?
I'm sure I'm not necessarily going to cover all of them, but I'll mention the most important ones. For example...
And please take your time as you cover the most important ones.
As for example, first of all, before you can do any payment, you need to register supplier information on the application. I think it's worth mentioning that somebody that capture payments, any official that capture payments on the application, they should not have access to capture supplier information as well, because that's part of the segregation of duties we instruct departments to follow. So in other words, they need to capture all supplier information, including their bank account details, if applicable, if available. Then they can also capture invoice information, which result into a payment. Multiple invoice may become a payment at the end of the day, once it's authorized. And then they can also schedule specific disbursement batches, which is basically the physical payment. When the cash flow from the departmental bank account to the beneficiary's bank account. They can also capture journals, which are normally used to correct allocations. Like, for example, if they capture the wrong item for the specific payment, they can use a journal to correct it, which is also a financial transaction. They can also record debts. They can also record bank statement information. That's normally electronic interface, which we receive directly from the commercial banks, as well as the Reserve Bank, which we interface into the application. That's also a transaction. We also record all payroll information, which is processed on another application called Procedural. That's the payroll for government. So that information is also recorded in the GL. So at the end of the day, you end up with a complete set of expenditure as well as revenue. The revenue as well, in the sense that they do capture receipts and deposit information into the application as well.
Thank you for that. But can I highlight some of the entry functionalities that you have identified? The first is that it's important to capture the details of the supplier. And the supplier would be a person who renders services or sell goods or other commodities to the department.
Correct, yeah.
So the name of that supplier is important. And you also mentioned the bank account. You remember that?
100% correct.
Why is a bank account required?
In order to do a payment, recently in government, we don't really make use of check payments anymore. Well, obviously not cash payments. So the method of payment is electronic payments into the beneficiary's bank account.
What methods does our government and its departments make use in order to effect payment?
As far as, currently, the majority of the payments via electronic fund transfers, via the ICB application, Automated Clearing Bureau, which is available to the whole country, not only to government. Some files we send via the commercial banks, some other files we send directly to ICB. In some cases, the moment the payment, the monetary value of the payments is in excess of R1 million, then they cannot do a normal ICB payment, electronic fund transfer, then they need to do a credit transfer. In the banking industry, the limit is 5 million. But National Treasury, quite a while ago, in conjunction with the Minister of Finance, decided that they're going to bring it down to R1 million for national and provincial departments. So all payments in excess of R1 million is via credit transfer. In other words, the instruction to the bank, the sponsor bank, to transfer the money to the beneficiary bank account.
And why does National Treasury, in conjunction with the Minister of Finance, why have they established a norm of R1 million, which is something that is different to commercial entities? I mean, you say that commercial entities is 5 million, and you say for the payments made by government departments is R1 million. Why is such a disparity compared to the world of commerce in private sector?
I assume the reason for that is that they want better control over the flow of government money. In other words, the difference is if we send a file to ACB, for example, for those amounts less than R1 million, they simply process those amounts and transfer the money to the relevant bank accounts of the beneficiaries. The moment it's R1 million plus, then there's another process they need to follow where they instruct the bank to transfer the money into another bank account. In other words, there's some more people involved in the payment process. which need to approve it before they send it through to the commercial bank with the instruction to transfer to the relevant bank accounts of the suppliers.
Yes. Mr. Gilliland, can I take you back to page 2 of Exhibit G1?
Yes?
You say that another responsibility you have is to monitor the performance of BES. Do you see that?
Yes?
Can you explain to the chair how do you effect that monitoring responsibility?
We've got an operations team in place, and that team consists of operators, which is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the application, those kind of things, but it also includes a team of DBAs who continuously monitor the performance of the allocation. You can imagine we're sitting with 30,000 plus users, which potentially capture on a daily basis. So you need to monitor the performance application, and if required, do the necessary changes to improve the throughput of the application at the end of the day, because otherwise we won't be able to deal with the potential 2.5 million hits per day.
Yes. Just give us a sense in physical terms. Where is your operation center? Where is it based?
It's in Centurion, Sita Centurion.
Sita Centurion.
Sita Centurion, yeah.
Okay. And are you able to tell us why are you placed in Sita Centurion and not in any of the well-known buildings of National Treasury?
Well, I think it's convenient for us due to the business, kind of business we're in, to be as close as possible to the Sita people, because they are hosting the applications on their mainframes.
Yes. Chair, Sita is the State Information Technology Agency, which provides, at least in accordance with its statutory mandate, all forms of information technology applications and assistance to the state. And that may well explain why Mr. Gilliland's bus operation is located at Sita. Now, you are in Centurion, and you are capturing all sorts of information. You talk about 2 million hits per day, which take place somewhere else across the country. Can you explain to us how do you capture that information? What is the interface methodology between you and all of these different departments across the country?
Yes. First of all, we don't really capture any transactions as National Treasury. Only the departments capture transactions. In other words, we don't capture a single transaction on behalf of any department on their general ledger. The way the department capture information, they sit all over the country. Might be Bishu, it might be Potchefstroom, wherever. They need a PC, a workstation on their desk, which allow them access to the mainframe. And the way they send information from the workstation to the mainframe is via a network, implemented in most cases by Sita. Sita take also responsibility for the networks of government. So they need a link to the mainframe in order to be able to capture. If they haven't got that link, they won't be able to capture.
Yes. Just in practical terms, Mr. Gilliland, let's take the Bisho example. A department in Bisho will capture a transaction, and it will enter the details of that transaction in a digital format.
Yes.
And that will be kept in its database.
100% correct.
And you will have access to it.
We will have access to that.
And you will be able to monitor that payment.
Yes, we can.
And you will be able to see precisely what that payment was for and for what amount and to whom.
100% correct.
Now, you were asked by the Commission's investigators to assist the Commission by trying to establish what payments, if any, different government departments, both at provincial and national level, have made to two media entities of the Gupta family that are known as Infinity and TNA. You recall that?
Yes, 100% correct.
Can I ask you to explain to the chairperson what you did after you got that request?
Well, first of all, we create a SQL query, which is a standard query language we use for relational databases. Maybe I must explain the word relational database as well. Basically what it means is we've got a property structure within the database. For example, there's multiple files which contain different types of information, but there's also links between those files in order to be able to retrieve a complete set of information at the end of the day. So what it means for the people, the normal people like me and yourself, is there's a file, for example, which contain supply information. There will be another file which contain payment information. There will be a third file which contain disbursement information, those kind of things. Yes. All the detail with regards to that specific process. And the way
you say that those details, I'm sorry to interrupt you, those details in a file format, and we'll talk about what file format means, will be captured in a database. The equivalence of a database is a storeroom, a strong room.
It's basically the place where the data resides at the end of the day.
Yes. But captured in a digitized format.
That's 100% correct.
Yeah, it's a digital storeroom.
Yeah.
And there you will have information.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past there will be files and files, physical documents that are kept in the storeroom.
Paper files, yeah.
Yes. The paper files have now been substituted by computer form of capturing information.
Well, I think the paper trail is still there,
yes,
in some cases, because there's still invoices. It might be in electronic format, but in lots of cases it's still a paper trail,
yes,
invoices.
Yes.
But the physical recording of the transactions, that's online on the application. You don't have a separate cash book anymore,
yes,
where you manually capture all payment information, receipt information, whatever the case may be. You also don't have a general ledger in a manual format anymore. That's all computerized. Yes. It's an electronic format.
Yes. I remember in the olden days they used to have what they call the T accounts, which was another accounting method to test the robustness of a general ledger. But these days I take it that those sorts of tools are gone. You rely on computer applications which assist you to...
Not really.
Okay.
T accounts are still applicable today because we're still sitting with a double entry application. Yes. So for each single transaction, there's two entries.
Yes.
It's normally, in the case of a payment, there's an expenditure entry against the chart of account, and another leg, which is a control account, which will facilitate processes further down the line, like, for example, the physical capturing of the payment as well as the disbursement process.
Yes. Well, let's avoid the complication because it might confuse us. But the point is, someone behind a computer screen will punch in the transactions, the details, the payments, the supplier, and the amount.
100% correct.
Yes. Now, you have introduced another concept called SQL.
We didn't introduce this. That's basically a standard query language,
yes,
which we use to retrieve information from the database. For example, if we need information on a single department, it's easy to use a standard report, which is also available to retrieve the information. That's the simple way to do it.
Yeah.
But if we need to provide information, and that information cut across the 180 different departments, we prefer to use standard query language, which is what we basically do with the standard query language. It's a set of parameters they set up in order to tell the application what information they need. In other words, in this specific case, we said we need supply information. want to know who's the beneficiary, we want to know the bank account against which the payments were made, we want to know what payments we made to which bank account, who captured the payment, who authorized the payment, when did we pay, when did we disburse. All those kind of information you can capture within this query and run it on the mainframe. So the result of that will be a set of information that's not necessarily readable by people like yourself and myself. In addition to that, we've got another tool provided by the IBM environment, which we call QMF, Quality Management Facility for Workstations. We use that tool to take the information from the mainframe, the result of the query, and populate that into a document which is easily readable by people like us. Because I'm not an IT guy, I'm a government accountant, so then I can read it easily.
All right. Mr. Gilliland.
In this case, we pull that into a spreadsheet, which got nice columns and with headings and all those kind of things for the people like the.
You deal with this concept of SQL from page 8 of Exhibit G1. Can I ask you to go there? You will see that at the top of that page you say, currently, 2 ways National Treasury can access the financial information of departments using the BAS application. Do you see that?
Yes.
I'm going to skip the first bullet point, which is the first method you identify, and quickly jump over to the second method in the second bullet point. There you say, secondly, by means of running SQL queries from each department's relational database, where the data is stored on the CETA mainframe. And in bracket you say CETA is hosting the BAS application on their mainframe. We have talked about CETA. We have talked about its assistance to you and to different departments. Now, can you again please explain to us, how do you run the SQL query?
Like I said, the SQL, it's a standard query language. What it basically means is the development team set up all the parameters based on what information you need from the application. I said previously that there's multiple files within the database. The one file might contain supply information, the other one payment information, invoice information, a disbursement information, those kind of things. What you need to decide when you set up the query is what information do we need. So based on the request we received from the Commission, we know that we need at least information like supply information, with their bank accounts, with the payment information, the invoice information, the disbursement information, those kind of things. So we set that up within the query, and then we physically use this, we physically run it against the mainframe. You must remember there's 180 plus databases.
I understand, but Mr. Gilliland, in this case, let's be practical. What information did you require from the Commission to run the standard query language?
The Commission requests us to provide information for example, TNA, the supplier TNA, as well as Infinity.
Yeah.
But
in this case, they gave you the names of the suppliers.
They gave us the names of the suppliers.
And what did you do with those names?
What we did with those names, because we know in government, because of the fact that each and every department capture their own supply information, we cannot really, for example, if I can take TNA as an example, we cannot really request or retrieve information for TNA Pty Limited, because it might be, due to the multiple permutations captured by the department, that we won't get all the information back. So what we do on our side, we mask the information. In other words, we're gonna retrieve all payments for TNA and nothing else. We're not going to say TNA, PTY Limited, whatever the case may be. So we do it against TNA.
Understand this. So in this case, once the commission conveyed the information of the suppliers to you, your developmental department took that information and typed it into a computer and started to run it against the databases of different departments.
Yeah.
And then information was spewed out on your computer screen.
100% correct.
And that information, or let me ask you without leading you here, what information was revealed after you have entered that query?
Well, once we received that information, obviously we picked up a lot of the supply information, including the bank accounts.
Yes. Can I stop you there?
Okay.
We will go to the bank accounts shortly. Before I leave page 8, can I take you back to the first method of gaining access to departmental information by Treasury that we skipped? Remember, it's on page 8, the first bullet point. You say, firstly, by means of a NT centrally created maintenance user ID that is created on each department's database. This user ID only has access to reporting and cannot perform any transaction on BES. It's up to you whether you want to canvass this part of the model of gaining access to information. Do you think that is relevant? Should we waste time on it for the purposes of your evidence?
I think it's, if I may, I think it's important to understand that this user ID are not allowed to capture any financial information. We mainly use this user ID for capturing certain parameters, and as well as we request reports. If we need to assist the department or for whatever reason need to retrieve information from the application, and we deal with a single department, we normally use standard reports because that's easy. We sign into the system, we log into the system, request a report for a specific entity or a supplier or whatever the case, and the system will come back with all the relevant information for that particular item.
Give us an example. I mean, what sort of reports you would capture under this first model of access to information?
Which
practical example.
Which I can request.
Yes.
It can be a trial balance, it can be a detailed transaction report, it can be supplier information, it can be payment information for a specific supplier.
Right, Mr. Gilliland, I'm going to ask you to go to page 10. You have now told us that after you have received information from the Commission about the suppliers, in this case TNA and Infinity, your screenshots revealed a number of bank accounts.
That's correct.
Now, what is on page 10 of the document? That is Exhibit G1.
Well, that's basically a list of bank accounts which we picked up in the first query. When we ran a query against all the beneficiary names, the supplier names, we identify a lot of bank accounts. In this case, it's a total of 11 bank accounts.
Yes.
There might be more bank accounts there because you can see in some cases we add a zero in front of the bank accounts and those kind of things, but it's basically 11 different bank accounts.
Yes. I have raised this issue with you why the entries are, in this case, almost 15. But can you explain to the chair that these are in substance 11 bank accounts and there is a duplication? For instance, let's deal with the first and second line entries. You see bank account number 40, and thereafter you see the next bank account which starts with 04.
Yeah.
The rest of the digital numbers, they are the same.
100%. It's actually the same bank account. but it was definitely captured at the departmental level potentially, where the one department captured it without a zero and the other department captured it with a leading zero.
So it's a duplication. It's the same bank account.
It's the same bank account.
Can you identify the other duplications which we find on that page?
Yeah, there's another one lower down. It starts with 145-409-5326.
Yes.
A typical example, we also added the zero there.
The one that follows immediately thereafter starts with a zero.
Yeah,
So that's a duplication.
it's a duplication. It's the same bank account.
Okay.
And then lower down, the one started with a 251-844-218. The next line is we added one single zero, so it's 025-1844-218. And there's also a third one with two leading zeros. 11251-844-218. Which is, they're all the same bank account.
Yes. So in total, there is a duplication of about 4
Yeah.
bank accounts. But the result in the total unique bank accounts that you have identified are 11 in number.
It's 11 bank accounts, yeah.
Mr. Gilliland, I'd like you to identify the beneficiaries of these bank accounts with reference to the slides that appear from pages 27 and 28. Are you at page 27?
Yes, that's correct.
You see that that page represents several bank accounts. And below each bank account, there is a name or set of names. Do you see that?
Correct.
Now, in your own words, let's begin with the first bank account we find on the left-hand column, which is 407-6462-329. To start off, that bank account has already been identified on page 10. Do you confirm that?
Yes, that's correct.
It is that bank account which at some point was a duplication because of the zero entry in the beginning. You confirm that?
Correct.
Now, can you identify for the chairperson the names that follow below that bank account?
Well, the names that follow there, that's, for example, a summary of a specific supplier description for that particular bank account. And there's multiple variances there. For example, the first one is TNA Media, Pty Limited, Pty between brackets. The next one is just TNA Media. Lower down, there's the New Age, which is another variance of the same thing at the end of the day. New Age, the second last one, New Age TNA Media, Pty Limited. That's another version of the same supplier. I don't know whether you want me to go through each and every one of them.
No, for the purposes of your evidence, can I ask you to identify the total amount paid into that bank account?
The total amount for all those permutations of the same supplier name is 173.6 million rand into the first bank account.
Can you repeat the amount again?
173.6 million rand. 173.6 million rand.
Yes. So your query that you ran against that supplier name revealed that for the variation of TNA Media, Pty Limited, TNA Media, and so on, there was a total amount of 173.6 million odd rand paid into that account.
100% correct.
Mr. Maleka,
Yes.
as you deal with figures in the various parts of the page, I do get left behind.
I'm sorry, Chair.
And I think that's partly because you don't say whereabout in the page a particular figure or
Yes.
amount is,
Oh, I'm sorry, Chair.
or because there is nobody with a stick or something that tries to show us on the screen where that amount is.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay, that's going to help.
Yes. Chair, I'll ask
Yeah,
the computer operator,
yeah.
not from SITA, but from here, to make sure that he takes us along.
Okay, so maybe you can just go back to the amount, total amount that you asked Mr. Gilliland to indicate, to specify, which is specified, but I couldn't see where
Yes.
the total amount is.
Mr. Gilliland, let's recapture your evidence. You have identified the account number beginning with 407, correct?
100%
And you
correct.
have confirmed that that's one of the accounts that was spewed out on your screenshot when you ran the query.
100% correct.
And you have said that the screenshot showed a different variation of the supplier name.
Yes.
Sometimes it's TNA Media, Pty Limited. Other times it's TNA Media. And at some other times you find the New Age. Do you see that? Let's
100%.
forget about the variation and concentrate on the account, because all of the payments were made into one account. Do you understand?
Yes.
Can you tell the chairperson, in all the different variations of the suppliers' names you find under that one account, how much in total was paid into that one account?
The total for all those variations, that's 173.6 million rand. If I can go into the detail of that, it's 173,665,211 rand and 3 cents.
Yes. We will just use the rounded up figure. I think it's easier that way.
Okay.
It flows easily from the tongue. So you say the total in a rounded form is 173.6 million rand.
100% correct.
Okay.
I guess part of the problem is that there is no indication that this particular amount is now the money as opposed the account number. So there is no R for rands. But you are telling us that's
It's
the money.
it's rands at the end of the day.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Those who are familiar with financial accounts
They know these things.
know these things better, and they speak their language.
Yeah,
which
some of us are disadvantaged,
Yes,
but it's okay. Thank you.
yes. The next account which you will get is the one that flows immediately below the 407 number. And it's the one which is recorded as 20057820101. Do you see that?
Yes.
Again, there are different variations of the supply names. TNA Media, TNA, and it goes on and on. Do you see that?
100% correct.
Applying the same principle of focusing on the account number alone, accepting that there are different supplier names of different variation, what is the total amount that has been paid into that account?
The total amount paid into that account was 38.6 million rand.
If you go across to the top right-hand column, there is a different account, and the account number there is 622-8230-3321. Do you see that?
Yes.
Again, different variations of supply name from TNA Media Pty Limited to the New Age newspaper. Do you see that?
Yes.
What is the total amount that has been paid into that account?
It's 19.7 million rand.
Then the next account is 101043270001. Do you see that, Chair? I hope I'm still with you.
Just repeat the figure.
It's account number 1010.
Oh, yes.
432.
Yes.
It ends with 001. Do you see that? Mr. Gilliland?
Yes, I do.
Can you confirm the amount?
8.1 million rand.
Chair, it goes on, and I'm not going to burden the record by asking Mr. Gilliland to go through each and every account. But the point from your evidence, Mr. Gilliland, is that all of these accounts reflect payments into the number of beneficiaries in different forms, either TNA Media or the New Age, you name it. Do you know why these beneficiaries would keep different accounts for payment by government?
I'm sorry, Mr. Maleka. It doesn't seem to me that it would take much time for the sake of completeness just to
complete
specify all the amounts. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Gilliland, we had completed that payment of 8.1 million rand, which was to account number 101043270001. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, the next account that follows is 408-0811352. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, that was payment to a totally different entity. What is that entity?
The entity is Infinity, and the total amount, 7.5 million.
The only difference I pick up in regard to that beneficiary is that at some point is Infinity Pty LT, for instance, that you'll find with reference to the first payment of 3.6 million. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And the next one that immediately follows is Infinity Media Networks. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And there the payment is 2.2 million. And the remainder is Infinity Media Network Pty Ltd. You see that?
I do.
Are these variations of any significance? Even regard to the fact that there was only one account?
Not really.
Not
because
really.
It's basically the same name.
All right. And the total amount paid for Infinity, how much was it?
7.5 million rand.
So, Mr. Gilliland, looking at this page, and I don't know whether the same would apply to the next page, would it be correct to say it depicts two columns? And in regard to the column on the left, it's got, or each of the columns has got an account number at the top and a list of beneficiaries below it. And that on the right hand of that column, there will be an amount that is written in bold, just as the account number is written in bold. The amount written in bold is on the same line as the account number, and that below the amount written in bold, there is a list of various amounts, and that therefore the amount in bold or the number in bold on the right-hand column reflects the amount paid into the account number, which is on the left column, to the beneficiaries listed under that account number. Would that principle make it easy for anybody who goes to this page to see what represents what?
Chair, that's 100% correct.
Yeah, and that would be in regard to the column on the left, but the same would apply when you go to the column on the right. And for me, the column is the two streams. You know, there's the account number at the top, there's a list of beneficiaries, there's the amount at the top, there's a list of amounts. So the list of beneficiaries on the one side and the account number on the one side, and then the amount and the list of payments, the total amount and the list of individual payments represents one column. And then the next, the same thing. If one applies that, one would be able to tell what amount was paid, the total amount, into which account, and who were the beneficiaries into that account. Is that right?
Chair, 100% correct. The bold figure in any case, in other words, will tell you what's the total amount into that bank account.
Yes, yes. As I said earlier, I just wish that there was R for the amount. Then I would know this is now money. It's not another account number.
I'm sure we'll remember that for the next round.
But maybe because I'm not an accountant. So,
Chair, we take the point. I think
yes.
in the next round of presenting the payments,
Yes.
and this is going to become key when you start dealing with amounts that we are told are in the order of billions and billions.
Yes, yes.
So
yes,
there we will
yes.
make sure that there is a rand indicator
Yes,
to know
yes.
that the digitized entries reflect the rand amount versus the account numbers.
Yes, yes.
Chair, I see that it is just past tea time.
Yes.
Would this be a convenient time to adjourn?
It would be. Before we do that, I just mentioned, I don't know whether it's something that you were planning to deal with. I'm wishing that this information could have included information about during what period these payments were made, but probably
it is
something
there. We will deal with it, Chair. It is
Okay,
there.
all right. Thank you. We'll take the short adjournment and resume at past.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Kate, sorry.
Yes, I am.
And we quickly dealt with the first method of access to information in the first bullet point on the page. Remember that?
Yes.
Can I ask you to explain to us the significance of the user ID number?
In general, or the specific user ID?
I don't want to make assumptions. Firstly, explain it in general terms, and later explain it in the context of access to this specific database.
Mr. Maleka, I'm not 100% sure. We referred to the National Treasury centrally created maintenance user ID. Is that the one I need to talk about?
Yes, and what is the significance of ID user number?
Well, first of all, each and every time we implement a new department, Chair, as part of that implementation process, we create a maintenance user ID, which will give us, as National Treasury, access to do certain maintenance and also be able to retrieve reports, to request reports against the database. Like I stated previously, we cannot do any transactions. We're not allowed to do that. The profile linked to that user ID won't allow any transactions. In general, each and every user out there also need a user ID. We don't create those user IDs. For each and every department, we create a user ID only for the departmental system controller. And it's his or her responsibility then to go and create user IDs for each one of the individual users within the department. And they also create a profile which allow them access to those functions they need to perform at the departmental level. So they cannot go beyond that. If they're allowed only to capture receipts, that's all they can do. And they'll probably also be able to draw reports on receipts, but they won't be able to capture payments. Is that clear enough, Mr. Maleka?
Yes, and if I become pedantic, you'll let me know. But in general terms, no one has uncontrolled access to a database.
Not at all.
Yes. You must have some key to gain access to a database.
100%, that's what we refer to as a user ID.
Indeed.
As well as a password linked to that.
And the purpose of it is to protect the integrity of the database.
100% correct.
Okay. Now, I was at page 28. And you remember the principle that the chairperson has now established. And I'd like to run through some of the payments that are reflected. The first one is account number 100-723-44002. Do you see that?
Yes.
How much was paid into that account?
The total amount paid into that account is 1.9 million rand.
To whom was payment made?
Infinity Media Networks.
Good. The next account is 621-964-65910. Do you see that?
Yes.
How much was paid into that account?
Also 1.9 million.
And to whom?
And the beneficiary is New Age CC.
All right. And then the next account is 62467086768. How much was paid into that account?
The total amount 1.5 million rand.
And to whom was the payment, to whom was the payment made?
To Infinity Media Networks. That's the one permutation. Infinity Media Network Pty Limit. Infinity Media Networks with a numeric value of 166725000.
Yes.
And then Infinity Media Networks Pty Limited without the brackets.
Yes.
Yes. And in total 1.5 million. Should I mention the separate amounts or?
Before you do that, Mr. Gilliland, I think that in regard to some amounts, you have rounded them off to a certain, to the nearest million, I'm not sure. Am I right?
Correct, Chair.
I think that it's better that you read the exact amount, because when somebody reads the transcript of the evidence and goes to this page and they find that in evidence you have said a different amount from the amount appearing on the page, that might confuse them.
I'll do so.
Later on, when you talk, you can always say about, about such and such amount. But I think when you are mentioning it for the first time, it's important to mention the exact figure.
I'll do so, Chair.
Thank you.
All right. Then you have, in regard to those entities, you have mentioned the amount, and do you want to confirm the total amount instead of rounding up to the nearest decimal?
Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. If I understand the Chair correctly, you want me to go into the detail of the...
No, to mention the amount in full.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you? I mean, the account number 624070866768.
Which account? Are we still on page 28 now?
Yes, we are on page 28. I just wanted to round up the figure in the fullest amount.
For which account? All accounts?
No. 624670866768. Are you there?
Yes, now I'm with you.
Total amount?
It's 1,598,001 cent. Rand and 1 cent.
Thank you. Now you have a very intriguing entry without reference to any account number, but it's identified as a check payment. Do you see that?
100%.
What was the amount that was paid through a check payment?
By means of check payments, it's 1,033,399 Rand and 40 cents.
We will get to the various entities who were the payees of those checks. Can I ask you this? Why in this case was there payment by means of checks?
I think only the relevant department would be able to answer that question. I don't know.
Right. Can you identify those payees?
Yes. The payees, should I mention them separately with the amounts?
Yes.
The first one was TNA Media Pty Limited, 910,838 Rand, 0 cents. And then TNA Media is the second one, 109,576 Rand and 80 cents. And then TNA Media Pty Limited, 11,400 Rand, 0 cents. And TNA Media Pty Limited for 792 Rand and 30 cents. And another payment to the same monetary value for TNA Media, 792 Rand and 30 cents.
What is intriguing about these payments via checks is that the two lowest amounts paid are referenced by a code of some sort. Do you see that?
I see that.
Why is that? Are you able to shed any light why in regard to those amounts?
I've got no idea.
No idea.
Why they did it. That's part of the entity description, the supplier name, in other words.
All right, let's go to the next account. 145,409,5326. Are you there?
I'm with you.
What is the total amount paid into that account?
959,700 Rand.
And who were the beneficiaries of that payment?
Infinity Media Networks, and the amount 461,700 rand. Infinity Media Networks with a code 166725000 for 270,000 rand, and then another payment for Infinity Media Networks Pty Limited, and the value is 228,000 rand.
Yes. And the last account is 550211378887. Do you see that?
I do.
What's the total amount paid?
Total is 863,531 rand and 43 cents.
And who are the recipients of payments?
First one, TNA Media Pty Limited, 805,223 rand and 4 cents. New Age Communication CC, 30,894 rand. And then New Age Communications T/A Samsu for 27,414 rand 39 cents.
Chair, we have now identified the various account numbers, the total amounts paid in each of the accounts. We have also identified the beneficiaries in respect of each payment, and we have also identified the one different method of payment, which is the check payment, and who were the recipient of the checks. And that was important in order to show you how much was paid in each of the accounts. Against that background, Mr. Gilliland, I would like to take you to slide 13. I'm going to jump slides 11 and 12, and all I want you to confirm before we begin with slide 13 is that you are the person who collected information at the request of the Commission's investigators and represented in this slide format. Do you confirm that?
Yes.
Because that's what you say in slides 11 and 12. Can I ask you to go to slide 13? And you will see that we have two colors. The one is yellow, the other is dark blue.
Yes.
And you explain that legend just above the pie chart. Do you see that?
Yes.
The yellow represents infinity, and the blue represents TNA. Do you see that?
I do.
All right. Now you have sliced that pie in accordance with the color. Can I ask you to explain why you have done so?
I think the reason for that is just to distinguish between payments, first of all, to Infinity and the other payments in blue to TNA.
How much, as reflected on that slide, was paid to Infinity?
The monetary value of payments made to Infinity was 12,057,970 rand and 2 cents, which represents 5% of the total.
And across before I go there, how much was paid in total to TNA?
Total payments to TNA was 248,248,370 rands and 73 cents, and that represents 95% of all payments.
Okay. And you represent the total payment to Infinity as 5% of the total payment,
That's correct.
and that to TNA as 95%.
That's correct.
So logically, TNA received the biggest chunk of payment.
95% of the total payments. Sir.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gilliland, I may have missed this. You talk about 95% and 5%, or is it 12%? I can't remember. That whole diagram, that is 100% of what?
It's 100%.
The blue and the yellow.
The blue and the yellow together add up to this 260 million, 306,340 rand and 75 cents.
Yes, what I'm asking.
That's total payments to the two, to Infinity as well as TNA.
Yes, and Mr. Maleka,
I
feel
will
free
say
to
that.
tell me, or you will clear
Yeah, I
it.
will say
Okay,
that.
all right,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yes. Chair, we have now represented the total payment both in terms of the monetary value and the percentage. Now, to your question, Mr. Gilliland, can you go across the pie chart? You will see that there are several entries in several columns from the top going to the bottom. Identify the total amount at the bottom column.
The total amount at the bottom is 260,306,340 rand and 75 cents.
What does that amount in total represent?
That's the total amount of all payments for the period to Infinity as well as TNA.
So this is the combined amount of the total payments which you captured that was made to both these entities.
100% correct.
We will get to the period, and believe me, we will get there because the chairperson has raised some issue. But for now, we're dealing with the total payments and the breakdown with reference to each of the entities. Chair, I'd like to take Mr. Gilliland to the breakdown for each of the entities, bearing in mind that they have been identified through different variations of the beneficiaries. The first that I'd like to deal with relates to the Infinity Group. And you have already said, Mr. Gilliland, that the total payment to that group, rounded up, is in the order of 12 million odd rand. Now, can we deal with each of the variations of the beneficiaries under the Infinity? And you explained that right from the top on the right-hand column. Do you see that?
Yeah.
How much in total was paid to the beneficiary identified as Infinity Media Networks?
12,057,000 rand, 970 rand, 12,057,970 rand and 2 cents.
Yes, that is the total payment made to the entities under the name Infinity.
Correct.
I'd like you to go through each of the variants of Infinity. The first is Infinity Media Networks. Do you see that?
Yes.
How much was paid to it?
4,871,012 rand and 2 cents.
The next is Infinity Media Networks Pty in brackets LT. Do you see that?
Yes.
How much was paid?
4,661 rand, 661,098 rand, 0 cents.
And the next one is Infinity Media Networks 166,725,000. Do you see that?
Yes.
How much was paid?
1,018,000 rand.
And the next one is Infinity Media Networks. Oh, sorry.
Did he not give you the amount that appears above the name that you mentioned? As I see it here, it seems to me that the amount relating to Infinity Media Networks 166,725,000, which is the entity that I thought you mentioned
Yes.
is 555,000, but I thought he mentioned another amount. Or did I misunderstand?
Mr. Chair, we mentioned the previous one, the one just on top of that.
Well, can you confirm that one that the chairperson has just mentioned to you? How much was paid there?
To Infinity Media Networks with the
One-
code 166725000, that is 555,000 rand.
Thank you. And the next payment is Infinity Media Networks, bottom slash, P2Y, LT. Do you see that?
Yes?
How much was paid there?
498,000 rand.
The last one is Infinity Media Networks, Pty Limited, in full. How much was paid there?
450,000 rand, 450,860 rand.
And the total...
I'm sorry, 454,000 is what I see here, not 450,000. Are you mistaken? Are you mistaken?
Can I
Mr.
just correct myself? So it's
Yeah.
454,860 rand.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
See, numbers are difficult, Chair. Numbers are difficult.
Well, I didn't expect them to be difficult for an accountant. For me, yes. Maybe the spectacles are not making him see as clearly as they should. Yes.
Mr. Gilliland, we do have time, so don't rush. I think you have to connect your eyes to the brain. The next one is TNA. You have mentioned that the total amount paid to TNA is 248,370 rand and 73 cents. Correct?
100% correct?
Yes. Now we can do it the long way and go through each of the various recipients of the payment under the group TNA. Or we can mention some of them in order to extract the principal. I would respectfully suggest, Chair, that we go the short route.
That's fine. He can just confirm that the amounts which appear in the column are correct. He has had a chance to look at them. He's confirmed that they are correct, and then you can ask him to highlight certain specific ones.
Thank you, Chair. First, can I confirm that you have looked at these payments and that you confirm the correctness of those payments as far as you were able to extract them via the BAS query?
I had a look at the payments, Chair, and basically by means of standard BAS reports, I've validated each and every one of those figures 100%.
Thank you.
I'm satisfied that the information is correct.
Thank you.
I am just going to highlight the biggest payments under that category of the TNA entities and also identify the lowest payment in that category. Let me start with the TNA Media Pty Limited. How much was paid to that entity?
That's the very first one. It was 69,538,832 rand and 44 cents.
And then you'll see the next one. As far as I can read without my 4 eyes, it's the same entity. Do you see that?
100% without the bracket.
Without the bracket. And there, how much was paid to it?
It was 57,751,031 rand, 84 cents.
It seems to me when I take the two figures together that that entity received the biggest chunk of the payment under the TNA category of payees.
Definitely so.
Let's look at the bottom one. TNA Medic Pty Limited. Do you see that?
I do.
How much did it get?
528 rand, 0 cents.
Yes. Are you able to tell the chair what that entity is all about, who it is, other than extracting it via your SQL query?
Well, it's part of the TNA entities. You're referring to the 528 rand,
Yes.
Mr. Maleko?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same beneficiary at the end of the day, I would say.
Yes.
More than that, I cannot really say.
All right. Chair, we have asked the investigators to track and trace all of these different payees. For now, we simply identify the total payments made under the groups. Now, the next slide that I would like you to look at, and it begins to answer the question that the chairperson has posed to you about the periods of the payments. Chair, we're going to do it in terms of the annual payments.
Yes.
And thereafter, we're going to do them in terms of the monthly payments.
Okay.
And the evidence on the monthly payments becomes important now that you have evidence of the leadership of the GCIS through different periods. And you recall it is the Maseko period. You will recall that it is the Ms. Williams, Mr. Manyi's period, Ms. Williams, and thereafter Mr. Dipoko, and then the resumption by Ms. Williams.
Okay.
And that will identify the period.
Okay.
There are trends that you will see in that regard, but for now, I deal firstly with the total payments annually, beginning from slide 14. You see, Mr. Gilliland, the heading of that slide is yearly payments to TNA in Infinity. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
You track and trace the annual payments from one financial year to the other. What is the beginning of the financial years that you trace?
The beginning of financial year is 1 April.
Yes. But
And
the first payment you pick up is in the year 2004. Do you see that?
Yes,
How much did you pick up in 2004?
399 rand.
In 2005?
28,080 rand, 59 cents.
Did you say 28?
26,
Mine seems to say 26.
1,000.
is it 26,000? Sorry for that, Chair. 26,080 rand, 59 cents.
Okay.
And the year 2006?
3,636 rand and 60 cents.
Yes. And in 2000, I skipped 2007. The first amount that approximates almost 2 million rand begins at 2008. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Right.
Should I mention it?
Yes.
1,921,595 rand and 40 cents.
Thank you. I skip 2009 and I go to 2011. And Mr. Gilliland, you were not here. But the evidence before the chairperson is that attempts were made by representatives of the Gupta family to procure government ad spend from GCIS and later other government departments, beginning at the end of 2010 in December, when their first media platform was launched. That's the context. You are not here, but I'm just giving you the context in order to try and contextualize payments that follow thereafter. In 2011, what was paid to TNA and Infinity?
The total amount for the calendar year was 6,109,042 rand and 88 cents.
That is in excess of all of the previous annual payments made from 2004 to 2009 by some distance of 2/3. Do you confirm that?
Yeah, more or less.
Then in 2012, the combined payment to those entities increases dramatically. How much was it?
It was 29,462,775 rand and 57 cents.
How about 2013?
2013 is 30,248,123 rand 40 cents.
Yes. I'll go to the next payment, and before I go to the next payment for 2014, Chair, can I remind you that in the affidavit that was placed before you by Mr. A.J. Gupta on Thursday, which is now part and parcel of Exhibit D3, he indicated from page 101, paragraph 13, that Mr. Maseko was mistaken when he suggested that the discussion they had around October to December, remember they had two discussions, were not about the television platform. They were only about the print media, because the television platform was not yet launched. And to that extent, he criticized Mr. Maseko. And Mr. Gilliland, I'm going to give you the context before I go to the 2014 payment, because it reflects a significant jump. But what Mr. AJ said, Chair, if I may read, the idea of, and I'm reading from page 101, paragraph 13 of Exhibit D3. The idea of launching a television station came about in August 2012. A shelf company which had been purchased had its name changed to Infinity Media Networks Pty Limited on 14 December 2012. The building of the studio commenced in January 2013. The studio was completed at the end of July 2013, and the channel started broadcasting in August 2013. We can assume that when it started to broadcast in August 2013, there could have been some revenue for Q4, which is the last quarter of a financial year in general terms. Ignore that for the moment. Assume that annually this entity, Infinity, would have started to earn revenue from 2014. On that assumption, can I ask you to deal with the payments that begin in 2014? Again, its combined payments, we'll get to the separate payments later. But for 2014, there is a significant jump of the total combined payments to TNA and Infinity. How much was it?
For 2014, it was 51,133,010 rand and 28 cents.
So it jumps from 30 million odd rand in 2013 to 51 million odd rand in 2014. It's a significant jump of 20 odd million in one single financial year difference. Do you see that?
It's correct, yeah.
If you are able to explain to the chairperson, please do, but if you're not, then we will leave with your lack of understanding. Are you able to explain why this significant jump?
No.
The next financial year is 2015. There the amount becomes even significantly higher. Do you see that?
I see it.
How much was it?
66,203,122 rand and 18 cents.
And then in the 2016 financial year, the amount drops. How much was it?
It was 55,636 rand and 42 cents.
So there was a combined revenue decrease of about 23 odd million.
That's correct.
Okay. And then in 2017, the amount drops further. How much was it for 2017?
The total spent for 2017 was 27,372,447 rand and 13 cent. That's a drop of roughly 16 million.
Right. And then in 2018, the amount drops even significantly lower. How much was it?
4,754,386 rand 79 cents.
Yes. Chair, you will remember that Mr. Maseko in his testimony confirmed that as a result of these significant drops in revenue, there was taken a decision to liquidate the successor entitled to at least the television house. And that explains the financial nature of this entity, that there was a substantial increase between 2011 to 2015, and there was a substantial decrease from 2016 to 2018 until the final demise of one of these entities. Now, we have dealt with slide...
Of course, Mr. Malema, the one for 2018 obviously is not for the whole year. The amount for the total amount in respect of 2018 cannot be for the whole year.
Yes, I understand that.
And therefore, subject to the issue you raise about liquidation,
yes,
we don't know what it would have been by the end of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, thank you for that, Chair, but we will raise this issue when Mr. Manye comes and testifies.
Yes.
But what is quite clear and beyond dispute is that there was a significant drop in revenue to both these entities. Into two. And what we would like to do, and in part it will answer that question, is to take you through the revenue stream separately for each of the entities. And you will see how the amount is divided thereafter.
Yes.
And we have dealt with the combined payments to the two entities from 2004 up to 2018. We now want to reflect on the separate payments to each of the entities. We start off with TNA.
I'm sorry. In respect of the one for 2018, Mr. Gilliland, shouldn't there be an indication of what months it relates to? Otherwise, anyone who reads this in 2019, 2020 might think it represents the whole of 2018. At this stage, we are able to say it doesn't because we know that 2018 hasn't come to an end. Or am I going ahead of Mr. Maleka?
No, it's a fair question, Chair. But you will see if you go to page 12 that Mr. Gilliland reflects the cutoff date in 2018 that he has dealt with. If you go to page 12, Chair, slide number 12.
6 July, is that the date?
Indeed.
Okay, I think that for my own sake, I'm going to make a note on page 14 next to the 2018 shade that would it represent January to 6 July or only from April?
No, it's January because they're all calendar years.
Oh.
So it's January up to 24 August 2018.
I'm sorry, for that one for 2018, based on the note that Mr. Maleka has just drawn to my attention, it would represent payments for the period January 2018 to 6 July 2018?
No, up to 24 August. The last payment we picked up was 6 July. But we ran the queries on the 24th of August. So in other words, between the 6th of July and the 24th of August, we didn't pick up any payments.
Chair, if you go to page 12,
Yes.
you will see that the slide begins with the file names as provided, and you'll see the file names identify Infinity and TNA Media as at 24 August 2018.
I'm sorry. Do you say page 12?
Page 12, yes.
Okay, files provided on 24 August 2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, the query,
Yeah.
which is a computer expression of locking information into a database using the names of the beneficiaries,
Yes.
was done up to the cutoff date of 24 August 2018.
But the last payment was 6 July.
That's the last payment
Yeah.
that they picked up.
Okay,
In other
now-
words, there were no payments from the 7th of July
Yes,
to 24th of
24th,
August.
yeah. Okay, now I understand. Okay. Thank you.
And Chair, if I can ask you to make a note to cross-reference page 12 with page 26.
Page 12. Do you want me to say something like read this page with page 26?
Yeah, you will see that page 26 is the granularity of monthly payments from 2011 to 2018 from the account of GCIS. So that is a detail
Yeah.
of the monthly payments which relate to GCIS. And it is those granular payments that we believe are vital arising from Mr. Gilliland's evidence.
Yes.
They relate to that 55 odd million, which is still the subject matter of a mystery
Yeah.
arising from the evidence of Ms. Williams,
Yes.
but which we now know the Hawks are investigating.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Gilliland, we are at page 18. Remember, the context is we're dealing with annual payment for TNA, and you have represented those payments through a bar chart or set of them annually by a color legend, blue, and that is the TNA. Remember that?
Yes, I do. Is it
Yes.
page 15, Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 15, please. Are you there at page 15?
I'm on page 15, yeah?
Yes. Thank you. You will see that you as accountants work through curves, the vertical and the horizontal curves. What is the vertical curve supposed to represent?
The vertical curves is the monetary value.
It's a monetary value.
Yeah.
And the highest monetary value is 70 million rand. Do you confirm that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Malega, I'm not sure if I follow that. Just repeat that question.
If you look at
At the blue or navy?
the whole graph, Chair.
Yeah,
You have
okay.
the vertical line going from top to bottom across the page.
Yes.
And the entries there reflect numerical numbers. What I wanted to confirm with Mr. Gilliland is that those numbers reflect something. For instance, the first entry line is 10 million.
Yes.
They go up to 70 million. Do you see that, Chair?
I see.
It's 10,
100
20.
million, the one right at the top, and 90 million. Are we at page 18?
No, page 15.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're looking at different pages.
My apologies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'm here. Yes,
Yes.
yearly payments, TNA.
To TNA.
Yeah.
That's one entity, Chair.
Yes.
And that is the new
Oh,
age.
yes, that is the 70 million rand you were talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
So the vertical curve represents the monetary value, correct?
That's 100% correct.
And the horizontal curve represents
Calendar years.
calendar years.
I'm sorry, they represent?
Calendar years. 1 January up to 31 December.
Oh, okay.
Chair, I'm going to skip the calendar years 2004 to 2009.
Yes,
I do so in the context of the evidence you've received
yes,
that the attempts to gain government advertisement spend started in 2011. And that's the financial years that I'd like to focus
yes,
with reference to TNA.
yes.
For 2011, how much did TNA get?
6,109,042 rand 88 cents.
Yes. And for 2012?
29,462,775 rand 57 cents.
For 2013?
30,248,123 rand and 40 cents.
And the biggest payment comes in 2015. How much was it?
I skipped the previous one, 2014.
All right, let's go to it.
2014 was 47,198,140 rand and 27 cents.
Right, and then 2015?
62,629,124 rand and 18 cents.
And then the next one, 2016, I'm sorry.
2016, it's 40,995 rand, 40,995,936 rand and 41 cents.
Yes. And then for 2017?
It's 25,872,047 rand and 13 cents.
Yes. And the last one for 2018?
It's 3,765,384 rand 79 cents.
Yes. And the total is the one that you have set out on slide 13. You don't have to go there, it's about 248 odd million rand, correct?
Yes?
Yes. Now that was for TNA. Let's go to infinity. And again, you have the vertical curve, which is in rand value. Do you see that?
Yes?
Rounded off from 500,000 at the bottom to 4.5 million at the top.
That's correct.
And then you have the horizontal curve, which is the annual representations of the payments that have been made. And you'll see in regard to infinity, you maintain the same color coding, which is yellow,
Yep.
correct?
Yes?
And the idea is to maintain consistency in the statistical representation of the payments, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Now, unlike the payments to TNA, these payments to infinity take a particular shape and format. Do you see that?
I do.
Let's explain the format. Let's start with 2014. Remember, I have read out to you that passage of Mr. A.J. Gupta's affidavit, when on his version he explained when Infinity came on stream. Remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
It's August 2013. I asked you to ignore Q4 and get to 2014. How much was paid to Infinity in 2014?
3,934,870 rand and 1 cent.
Okay. In 2015?
3,573,998 rand.
How about 2016?
2,059,700 rand and 1 cent.
And in 2017?
1,500,400 and 0 cents.
And in 2018?
989 rand, 989,002 rand, 0 cents.
You know, Mr. Gilliland, if I were to draw a curve that connects the vertical and the horizontal curves, the payments would reflect an annual decrease, year in, year out.
100% correct.
Yes. So that at the end of the day, and that will be the ultimate argument that we'll present before the chairperson, that if you compare the payments to Infinity as against the payments to TNA, those of Infinity were going down annually, and yet those of TNA were going up until the biggest payment of 2015.
That's correct.
Is there any comment that you'd like to make to the chairperson, given that type of picture that I have presented before you?
Well, if I speculate, the TNA payments represents printed media, so they spent obviously a lot more money on that than on the other media, which is television.
Chair, we will attempt to present evidence to show you that whereas in the ordinary course of business, television ad spend is the most desirable form of platform to garner critical viewership, which attracts various companies. In this case, you have the obverse, that is the print media that gained a lot of ad spend revenue from the government. But the evidence we're going to present will show that most of these went to the so-called TNA breakfasts. And that evidence will be presented before you through one or other investigators.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Gilliland, I'd like to round up the comparison between the annual payments made to TNA as expressed in slide 15 and those made to Infinity as expressed in slide 16 by only reflecting on the payments for 2018. I hope that you have put the two slides side by side. If you do have them next to one another, you will see that for 2018, the payment to TNA was 3.7 odd million rand.
100%.
And the payment for the same year to Infinity was slightly shy of 1 million rand.
Correct.
You will see there that the difference is that TNA got almost 3 times more than Infinity for that year.
Yes, it's actually almost 4 times more so.
4 times more. Yes. That's good. Now I'm going to canvass a different topic, again reflecting the payments to both of them, but divided this time, Chair, into national government payment and provincial government payments. And the aggregation of these payments becomes important in the light of what Mr. Maseko has told you.
Okay. Have you told us what page? I'm trying to... If you are still to tell us, it's fine.
I am at page 17, Chair.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And that slide represents the payments to both TNA and Infinity from national departments to provincial departments.
Yes.
Do you see that, Mr. Gilliland?
Yes, I do.
I'd like you to run through this slide fairly quickly. How much was paid to TNA in total from the national departments?
94.1 million.
And to Infinity?
5.5 million.
And the total payments to both by the national departments?
It's a 99.6 million.
Yes. Chair, we will give you the different departments who made these total later on.
Okay.
They come under different slides.
Okay.
And then you'll see that in the rest of the slide, there are payments by different provinces. They have been described in acronyms that have become popular in our own diction. The first is FS. What does it represent?
FS is Free State Provincial Government.
How much was paid to TNA by that Free State province?
75.2 million.
And to Infinity?
4.1 million.
The total?
79.3 million.
The next payment is KZN.
I'm sorry. You confirm, Mr. Gilliland, that you are now rounding the figures up to the nearest whatever, but you confirm that the detailed amounts that appear on this page are correct?
Yeah, 100% correct.
Just to be consistent,
Yes.
because you had started to mention the exact amounts. I understand that that can be quite maybe boring, even for an accountant to mention all the digits.
Yeah.
But if you just confirm that the amounts appearing on the page as they are correct, but when you talk about them, you might just round them up to the nearest million or whatever.
Yes.
That's fine, just so that whoever reads the transcript is not going to say you gave evidence that differs from what's written here.
Yes, Chair. So,
The fractions are important, are important for purposes of accuracy. Do you understand what the chairperson has said?
100%, Chair.
Yes.
The detail amount, the full amount is definitely on the page, and that's 100% correct. For this purpose, we refer to the millions only.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Then the next one is NW. What does it represent?
KZN,
Oh, KZN, I'm sorry. You had dealt with the payment of TNA by KZN, and you've confirmed that KZN represents?
the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Government.
Thank you. And how much was paid to Infinity?
Infinity was 228,000.
Yes. And to TNA?
0.2 million if we take the shortcut.
0.2 million. Okay. And to TNA?
24.8 million.
The total?
25.08 million.
Yes. Chair, I'm not going to deal with the rest. I have dealt with the biggest in order to show you provincially who paid more to these entities. You will see that Free State was the biggest payee in the order of 75 million. And then KZN, KwaZulu-Natal, follows next with 24 million.
Payee or payer?
Payo.
Yeah,
pay
on this, the national government, it appears Mr. Gilliland paid the highest amount, 94 million something. And in terms of provinces, it appears that the Free State province paid the next highest amount, namely 75 million something. And then the next province that comes after that amount is 24 million. There is quite some gap between them. You confirm those figures?
Chair, your observation is 100% correct.
Thank you.
And then, Mr. Gilliland, the next slide represents all of those by a combined national. For instance, you represent both TNA and Infinity, maintaining the same consistency of color. Do you see that?
I do.
And the biggest payment was by national governmental departments of something in the order of 94 odd million.
That's correct.
And for Infinity was less than 10 million. Somewhere in the vicinity of about
500,000 roughly, yeah.
Yes. And I'm not going to waste time on it, but what we pick up from these payments is that there was a representation of payments by both national and provincial departments in terms of percentages. And those percentages, you'll find them in slide 20. Is that correct?
100% correct.
And you'll see that the payments as reflected in percentage forms is in the order of how much for national governments?
Are we talking about the same thing? Because this is premier officers now,
Oh,
Mr. Maleka.
well, maybe I referred you to the wrong slide. But if you were to round up the percentages of the national payments as against provincial payments, how much will they come down to? Yeah. I mean, look at page 17. If you can't detect it quite quickly from page 17, can you just, during lunch break, work the percentage difference and give it to us? Because I'd like your evidence on the percentage to be reflected as part and parcel of the record.
I can do so, because I can see it's less than 30%. So
Less than 30%. But please come up with a near accurate figure.
I'll give you the accurate figure.
Thank you.
That's national versus total.
Indeed. Now, you...
Mr. Gilliland, you need a pen to make a note?
That's fine, I've got a pen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you wanted to make a note and couldn't find a pen. Okay, all right. Thank you.
In slide 19, you begin to identify the different departments by name from which the payments we have talked about were made. And again, you do so through the bar charts. You start off with officers of the premiers. Are you there?
I'm there.
Now, you maintain the consistency for reference and identification of the payees, and you say for the officers of the Premier, the total amount was in the order of 110 million rand. Do you see that?
I do.
And that is for TNA.
That's correct.
And from the self-same officers of the Premier, the total amount paid to Infinity was in the order of 3.76 million rand. Do you see that?
Correct.
And then the next bar chart is vital for the reasons I've already discussed. You will see that it relates to GCIS. Do you confirm that?
I do.
How much in total was paid by GCIS
In total for...
to complete? In total to TNA?
TNA was 51.8 million.
How much was paid by GCIS in total to Infinity?
3.3 million.
3.3 million. The two put together, how much is it?
It was 55 million.
Yes. Chair, you will see that what follows thereafter is the payments by different government departments. They are significantly lower, and I'm not going to deal with them. For my purposes, I've identified the two biggest payments to these two entities. From the officers of the Premier, as you see, is almost 114 million rand, and from GCIS is almost half of that amount. Do you confirm that?
Yes, I do.
And the next slide.
Of course, I'm sorry, Mr. Maleka. The high amount in relation to the offices of the premiers, when one looks at the fact that it's quite high, one would have to take into account that it is not one office of the premier. It is a number of offices of the premiers in various provinces. Is that correct?
100% correct, Chair. It's all, basically all 9
Yes.
Premier's offices at the provincial level.
Okay.
Yes. And Chair, you're correct. The breakdown, as you have already seen, is given on page 17.
Yeah.
Now,
the point that I've just made, which you have confirmed, Mr. Gilliland, what it might mean might be this, and you must tell me if I'm wrong, that in regard to the various government departments listed there, you are looking at a particular department, different each one, whereas with regard to the office of the Premier, you are looking at all the offices of the Premier, or is the position that even with regard to some of the departments, or maybe all of them, I see that under provincial treasuries, you say treasuries, would that be all the 9 provincial treasuries? That you're not, that is correct?
100% correct, Chair.
But would that principle apply to all the departments? For example, when you say health, is that all provincial departments?
That will be all health departments.
Provincial and national, or just a provincial, where it says health?
It's going to include national as well, I believe.
Oh, okay, and education, for example, you say education,
Education departments,
it will be national education and provincial education departments?
yes.
Okay, I think that it will be important that maybe this be amended to make sure that when one reads, one gets the correct picture.
Yes. Mr. Gilliland, are you able to do this? Are you able to amend the slide to reflect that insofar as it references, say, health, it captures both provincial and national government payments?
We can change that.
Please, if you
I
could.
haven't got the detail with me, but I can talk to Salome if she's available, then obviously we can do it.
You can do that and in due course submit an amended slide or an additional slide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not necessarily today, is that what you say, Mr. Maleka? Or do you want it-
Well, if you can today, that's fine. I believe that I should be able to conclude your evidence in time for you to reconsider that point made by the chairperson and give us an amended or additional slide. I take it that you, like me, work until 4 o'clock.
No, it's fine. I'll do my level best to provide that. So.
Yeah. If it's difficult because maybe you need to be in your office or check whatever, then I'm sure an arrangement can be made for you to come back some other time and give us something that reflects the position more accurately.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll try to do it before we leave.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's just in the interest of accuracy. If you think that you are better positioned to collect all relevant information from CETA, by all means do so. We don't want to rush you in order to commit you to a mistake.
We'll see what we can do, Mr. Maleka.
Thank you. And Chair, to your point, I mean, I just want to canvass one more slide before I go to the GCIS story. It is the slide at page 21. And there you deal with the officers of the premiers. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Compared to the national department. Do you see that?
Yes.
And for Free State, for example, and I don't ask you to draw any conclusion other than to place the numbers on record. For Free State, you indicate that it paid some amount to Infinity.
Yes.
How much was it?
26.3 million.
And how much was paid to TNA?
53.025 million.
And the combined amount is in the order of 91 odd million rand.
No, that was 79 million.
Sorry, how much?
About 79 million.
79 million.
Yeah, 79.3 million.
Oh, I see.
But that's, you're making an addition, it's not an amount that appears on the paper, isn't it?
No, it's the two together. If I understand you correctly,
Yeah, no,
Mr.
I
Maleka,
accept that. I accept that. That's what I want to confirm, that you are just adding the two together.
that's the figure for Free State, Chair.
Yes.
Infinity as well as TNA together, it's 79 million, 79.3 million.
Yes. And that amount, Chair, you'll get it. I thought we canvassed it already on page 17.
Oh, okay.
If you go to page 17, and you look at the second entry after national is FS, you'll see across the line Free State, the combined payment to Infinity and TNA will be something in the order of 79 million.
Well, when we were on page 17, where it says FS, which is Free State, the amounts given there, I thought they simply related to provincial departments in the Free State, various departments, obviously, which could include the Office of the Premier. In paragraph 21, I'm taking it that the amounts shown there relate, well, there is the, what is that color? Is it purple? I'm very bad with colors.
It's purple, yeah.
That says offices of the premiers. So, and then there is FS. So I'm not sure whether it's FS meaning office of the premier in FS, or whether it's FS, all government departments that did make payments, plus the office of the premier. I don't have that clarity. Or maybe the witness may explain here.
Chair, if I may, the purple is only the Premier Office of the Free State.
Okay.
And then the yellow is the rest of the province.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
And that is on slide 21.
Slide 21, yes.
Okay.
And Chair, you'll see the legend is described on the right-hand top column.
I'm sorry, just say that again.
You'll see the explanation of the colors.
Yes, no, I see it. But this, my query arose from the fact that you asked the witness to give the total amount in relation to the Free State on page 21, and he gave a certain amount, and I was saying to him, that's not necessarily an amount that appears on the page, but he's adding up the two amounts which he confirmed.
Yes.
But then you referred me to page 17 in relation to FS.
Yes.
And then my confusion was that maybe FS is wider than maybe page 17 FS is wider than FS in page 21. But I don't know whether you are saying it's the same in terms of...
No, I'm not saying the same.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is that you have the total amount paid from FS in page 17.
Yes.
And the breakdown of how much of that amount comes from the Premier's offices.
Yes.
You'll find on page 21.
Yes. So am I right to think that in page 17, that total amounts relating to FS, it includes the Premier's office in FS?
Yes.
But also includes all or any other provincial department that made a contribution in terms of payments?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
And in page 21, when it says FS, it's the Premier's office in FS, but I mustn't apply the same thing? It doesn't mean...
Let's take, for example, FS. You'll see under FS there are two bar charts.
Yeah.
The one is yellow.
Yes.
And the other is
Purple. Yeah.
We know that purple would be the offices of the Premier.
Yes.
So from the Premier's office in Free State, there has been a combined payment of about 53 odd million rand.
Yes.
To TNA and Infinity.
Yes.
In the same province, FS, there have been additional payments from other sources.
Yes.
In the order of 26 million rand.
Yes.
And what we have asked Mr. Gilliland to do is to go and identify those specific departments by name and number. But if you take the combined amounts on page 21 of the payments from the Office of the Premier and other sources in that province, you'll get to a figure. And that figure is the one that you will find on page 17.
Okay, now I understand. So page 17 is represents whatever payments came from the Free State provincial government.
Indeed.
And page 21, where it says FS, 21, it particularizes or specifies the Office of the Premier as among those departments.
Indeed.
And then in addition, it says there are others, but it's basically the same as in page 2017.
Indeed.
Okay, all right.
So
now I
page
understand.
21 is a breakdown
Yeah,
as between the Office of the Premier and other provincial departments.
yeah. Okay, no, that's
And
fine.
Chair, in the interest of time, the same principle applies with reference to KZN.
Yes,
I'm not going to waste time on it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, that's fine,
Yes.
that's fine.
Now, Mr. Gilliland, I've taken you to all of these slides and asked you to deal with the breakdown in regards to the substantial payments which came from the provinces that you have reflected on slide 19. I have also indicated to you that there is the second biggest payment you find on slide 19, and that relates to GCIS. You remember that?
Yes, that's correct.
And I'd like to explore the payment from GCIS in some detail, if you don't mind.
Don't mind?
I would ask you to consider, and Chair, you can make a note of this, the payments reflected on page 19 by cross-referencing slides on page 25 and 26. If we could then go to slide 25. Are you there?
I'm there.
You see the heading of that slide is GCIS department spend. Do you see that?
That's correct.
And again, you identify the payments with reference to the color-coded bar charts. Do you see that?
Yes,
And this time it's yellow and blue.
yes,
And yellow we know it's infinity, and blue we know is TNA.
correct.
Now, what was the total payments made from GCIS to infinity?
It's 3.3 million.
And again, that's a rounded up amount,
Yeah.
without fractionalizing
You
it.
prefer the full amount?
No,
Okay.
I just want to confirm on record that it's
Yeah.
rounded off. And then the next payment is to TNA. How much was it?
To China, it's 51.8 million.
So again, TNA received the biggest or the bigger chunk of the payment. Do you see that?
Yes,
And can you also do me a favor and reflect the difference in payments as expressed in percentage terms?
good, we can.
And if you can give us a separate slide. The next slide, Chair, it goes to answer the earlier questions you raised about the period. And this is going to become important, as we have previously indicated, that it canvasses different periods of leadership change. Mr. Gilliland, are you at page 26?
I am.
Okay. You will see that the presentation there begins from a particular month of a particular year.
Yes, we start with February 2011.
February 2011. And then it cuts across horizontally to the end of a particular month in 2018. What is the last month?
Which is April 2018.
And that is the GCIS. You see, the evidence we have is that Mr. Maseko was removed, and I take it that you don't know who Mr. Maseko is, or do you?
I don't.
Mr. Maseko is the then Chief Executive Officer of the GCIS, and he left that office on the 2nd of February 2011. And the evidence before the chairperson is that he left under circumstances where he was called upon to provide government's media buying spend to TNA, and he refused to do so. That's the evidence, and that's the context. And insofar as that context is concerned, can you look at your monthly periods that you canvass?
Yes, I'll look at it.
For 2010, there was no payment at all to either TNA or to Infinity by GCIS.
For the calendar year 2010?
Yes.
There was no payment, yeah?
Yes. The first payment begins somewhere in February 2011.
That's correct.
Are you able to indicate to the chairperson more or less how much would be the payment made in that regard?
Only for the month of February, or?
Yeah, for the month of February. We'll go across the various months.
This will have to take a while. I would say about 300,000.
Around about 300,000. All right. And then there are various payments that are made from March, April, May, June, July, and then there is nothing for August, September, October, November, December. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And then they continue in the next calendar year, which is 2012, January. You see that?
Yep, I'd see that.
How much would you say was paid in 2012, January?
I'd say it's roughly 500,000 rand.
And then in February, there's another payment, but the big jump comes in March 2012. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
How much was made in that period?
That's probably 5.6 million.
As far as I can pick up across that graph, this is the biggest payment made monthly by GCIS.
For a single month, definitely, yeah.
And
Did you say made, Mr. Maleka?
paid.
Paid, okay, all right. Paid by GCIS, okay.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Do you see that, Mr. Gilliland? And the evidence before the Chair is that from...
I'm sorry, Mr. Maleka.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliland, did you say based on that chart, is that the correct term for what we are looking at?
Yes, it's correct.
Did you say that based on this chart, you would say that in March 2012, GCIS must have paid about 5 million rand?
Yeah, I would say about 5.6 million, Chair.
Yeah, because it looks like it's much closer to 6 million than closer to 5 million. Okay, all right, thank you.
Chair, I know it's 1 o'clock. I'll try to ask 2 more questions to round up this topic.
That would be fine. I just want to find out how long you think you'll still be with him, because it may well be that I would prefer that we finish with him.
Yes.
And then when we take the lunch break, then if there is no other witnesses, I understand there isn't, then we are done for the day.
Chair, let me do that. I think I need about 10, 15 minutes.
That's fine.
I might,
Yeah.
now, Mr. Gilliland, you have identified the month of March 2012 as the single biggest payment made. And then there are others which are not insignificant, which follow from April. And can I ask you to identify them quickly? April, more or less, what's your estimation?
April for the same,
Yeah,
for the same
2012.
period.
Yes, yes.
Well, I would say in April 2012, it's probably about 600, between 600 and 700,000.
And then in May, it's slightly higher.
Yeah, it's 1.1.
And June?
June, it's also about 1,050,000, I would say.
And you'll see that August it increases. How much?
July.
July, sorry.
July is 1.3 roughly.
And August?
It's down to, I would say, about 700,000.
Yes. You see, all of those payments from February 2011 up to more or less September 2012 were made when the Director General, I think they had changed the description of the head of the GCIS. Those payments were made when Mr. Mzwanele Manyi was the head of the GCIS. What I'd like you to do for us is to round up all of those payments for that period under the leadership of Mr. Manyi. And if you could provide us a slide reflecting the total as far as we can pick it up for that period.
Yeah, can I just ask for clarification? What's the start and end date?
The start date is February 2011 and the end date is September 2012.
Thank you.
Is that September? Up to the end of August 2012. Is that okay? Is that okay? And then the next payments start with September 2012. And I would like you to cast your eyes across the monthly payments up to October 2014.
I'm sorry, Mr. Malega, from when to when?
From September 2012
Yes. Okay.
You remember, Chair, Mr. Gilliland is going to give us the total payment up to August 2012.
Yes, yes.
And the next period starts from September
Yes.
2012.
Yes.
And I'd like him to run across that period which would end at October 2014. And I'll explain the reason for in a moment.
Okay.
But are you there, Mr. Gilliland?
I'm there, Mr. Maleka.
That's the next period I'd like you to cover. For now, and purely out of illustration, what is the biggest amount that was paid during that period?
I would say that was July 2013, and it's roughly 2.5 2.6 million.
Yes. And the next biggest amount that comes in that period is
That will be 2014-03,
March.
March 2014.
yes.
And that's, I would say, 22.5, just slightly less than the previous one.
Yes. Chair, this is a period during which Ms. Williams was the acting head of the GCIS.
Yes.
The first period she identified.
Okay.
And what I'd like you to do is to repeat the same exercise by giving us the total amount paid by GCIS for that period.
I'll do.
The next period, Chair, begins from November 2014. And again, I'll explain the significance of this period, but please run through that period up to March 2017. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And that is a period, Chair, when Ms. Williams was removed as the acting DG, and one Mr. Donald Dipoko was acting in that period.
Okay.
What is the biggest payment made during that period, as far as you can extrapolate?
The biggest payment during that period, it's December 2015.
And the amount?
I would say it's about 2.7 million.
And then will you give us the total payment for that period? And to confirm the period, it's November 2014 up to March 2017.
I'll do so.
Thank you. And the last period, Chair, is from July 2017 to April 2018. Do you see that?
I see it.
And Chair, that is a period when Ms. Williams resumed her acting position. Now, what is the biggest amount paid for that period?
That was during July 2017.
How much was it?
I would say about 1.2 million.
And can you please give us the total for that period again?
I'll do so.
Chair, that gives you the sense of the amount that have been paid by GCIS. And let me make it clear that at this stage, we do not invite you at all to make any finding about these payments. We merely present them before you because we have come across a suggestion that GCIS did not pay any money to these two entities. What we have been able to establish, at least through the bus payment system, how it is operated and how it is monitored, through the evidence of Mr. Gilliland, is that there was in fact payments made, the biggest chunk being to TNA and some being to Infinity. And that's the evidence that we would like to present before you, because there is going to be some investigation relative to those payments. I say no more about them other than Ms. Williams was unaware of them, and the Hawks have confronted her with those payments, and there is an investigation around them.
Okay.
That will be the evidence of Mr. Gilliland, and we have no further questions to him. And unless the chair has further questions, that
No,
will
thank
be.
you. No, I don't have any questions for now. The clarifications of figures that he is going to work out, are you going to require him to come back to deal with that, or will you just secure, if necessary, just a short affidavit saying,
Indeed.
this is what I've worked out, and that will be handed up?
Yes, Chair, we would prefer that the additional slide presentation be submitted by him via affidavit, because his evidence is uncontentious.
Yes.
It does not, at this stage, implicate anyone in wrongdoing.
Yes.
But of course, if there are people who would want to clear up matters with him, they will be free to apply to you for permission to do so. But for now, he simply presents the hard facts and the figures before you, without drawing any conclusion about the propriety of those payments. It's a subject matter that we will debate with through other witnesses.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Gilliland, for your evidence. You are excused for now. You do know the requests that have been made for you to do some work to clarify certain things. So you will do that, and the legal team will talk to you about how that will reach me. If later on at some stage you are required, you will be asked to come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, what remains is the way forward.
Yes.
And I have been given a letter, but I'd prefer that Mr. Pistorius explain to you the way forward
Okay.
and the recent developments.
Yes. Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair, we have received a letter from the attorneys representing Mr. Duduzane Zuma. And if I may have leave to hand up a copy to you.
Yes. Thank you. Registrar. Thank you.
It's perhaps appropriate to place the contents on record.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The attorneys and counsel for Mr. Duduzane Zuma had placed on record at a previous hearing that Mr. Duduzane Zuma would not testify before the Commission, as he is currently facing parallel criminal charges emanating from the same subject matter before the State Capture Commission in Johannesburg. That was what was put to you previously.
Yes, but maybe we need to qualify it in terms of what his counsel said. He said that was the decision he had taken as at the time that he took it, but indicated that he may, once I've made my decision, maybe make a different election.
Yes, that's the purpose of placing this letter before you.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. The letter records that on your request, Chair, Council was asked whether or not Mr. Duduzane Zuma would reconsider his position, and it was undertaken by Council that instructions would be obtained.
Yes.
That has resulted in this communication received this weekend.
Yes.
Paragraph 4 reads, since Thursday and after affording our client an opportunity to consider the arguments of 6 September 2018, we have now received instructions from Mr. Duduzane Zuma to inform the Commissioner that he is prepared and tenders, it should read, to give evidence as a witness before the Commission with reference to the subject matter raised by Mr. Jonas in his evidence.
Yes.
And we are then asked to place this before you as Commissioner.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Pretorius. I think that it is good for the process of the Commission that Mr. Duduzane Zuma has made the decision that he will be prepared to give evidence and does tender to give evidence in this commission. And of course that immediately places him in the same position as some of the applicants for leave to cross-examine, if I recall correctly.
Yes, it would, Chair, and it would require then the rules to be followed in relation to this undertaking.
Yes. So when I finalize my consideration of his application, I will take into account the latest development.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I didn't understand that, I did not understand that there was anything else with which he might not, his application might not have complied at the time of the hearing of the application. I'm just checking based on what you just said. Well, Mr. Maleka would be the one maybe that might remember quite well.
Yes, he should deal with it.
Okay. Would that be all from you?
That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, and then in terms of this week, it would be that we then I would then make my decision on the applications in respect of which I've reserved my judgment. And other than that, are there any witnesses lined up for this week?
There is one witness who's planned to testify on Wednesday, and that's Ms. Barbara Hogan.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thursday, you've indicated that we won't be sitting.
Yes.
And Chair, depending on your rulings in respect of the various applications that were dealt with by Mr. Maleka,
yes,
we would then plan to recall witnesses to complete examination in chief and then set the further process in motion for cross-examination and possible re-examination.
Yes.
But that would depend entirely on the rulings that you make.
Yes.
And that planning can only really be finalized once those rulings are known.
Yes. With regard to Thursday, the issue that would have made me unavailable to be here, the matter that would have made me unavailable to be here on Thursday, is no longer an obstacle to me being here on Thursday. That may or may not help you in the light of the fact that we are only 3 days away from Thursday, but in case it does help, I thought I must just mention that.
Yes, the time may be able to be used, and again that depends on your rulings.
Yes. Now, with regard to my rulings in regard to the applications for leave to cross-examine that remain, I think that what would be quite urgent is just to get the affidavit or affidavits, it should be, from Mr. Ajay Gupta and Mr. Rajesh Gupta that I spoke about this morning. So I think if we can, if there was a way of those being obtained tomorrow, there might well be a possibility of giving judgment or of giving my decision on Wednesday, but at the latest, provided they are received either tomorrow or Wednesday, at the latest, latest, I should be able to give my decisions on Thursday.
It may be necessary to place authenticated copies before you.
Yes.
To be followed up by presentation of the originals, just so that
Yes.
you will know, Chair, what the attitude is.
Yes, I don't
what's
mind.
contained in-
Yeah, I don't mind if it's authenticated copies that are made available. If the originals will come later, that's fine. But I would like to have that information on affidavit by the two applicants themselves. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Malega, was there any requirement in terms of the rules or anything that Mr. Duduzane Zuma's application did not comply with that I need to concern myself with?
No, Chair, he will fall in the category of Mr. Fanashongwani type of
Yes.
application.
Yes.
So that's all you can do is to grant that application.
Yes, yes,
On the understanding that he'll be entitled to cross-examine
yes,
the witnesses who have implicated him, and mainly
Yeah.
Mr. Jonas.
yeah,
I'm not too sure if anything arises from the evidence of Ms. Mentor. We did not see it, but
Yes,
he can
yes.
motivate that to you.
yes.
And
yes.
therefore, that will be the
Yeah.
significance of the letter.
Yeah, well, as I say, the latest development in regard to him is does change his situation and places his application in the same category as the others that were dealt with. But I guess that I must deal with it formally when I give a decision in regard to the others as well, and because also his lawyers are not here today.
Yes.
So, okay, no, that's all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll adjourn now, and then we are not coming back after lunch, and the media will be informed if we meet or have to meet prior to Thursday. Mr. Pretorius?
The evidence of Ms. Hogan
Is Wednesday.
is Wednesday.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, I thought it's Thursday. So we will adjourn until Wednesday for today. How long is her evidence likely to be, do you know?
If you don't hold me to it, Chair,
Yeah.
we should be finished by the long adjournment, by
Okay.
1 o'clock.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. We therefore adjourn until Wednesday at 10.
All right.